What did they do with JFK's brain? Why would they want to provide any forensic evidence of him being killed by the deep state with a role played by the Clintons? So, photo of Epstein's cell shows a combination sink, toilet, double bunks, a ladder, a skinny mattress, etc. Reveals that fragments of material were hanging from a window, while a large strip of bedding was also looped through a hole in the top bunk. Another photo shows Jeffrey on the bunk, grey, ashen, and freshly wrapped. Another shows the broken bones in his neck, including the hyoid near his Adam's apple. So Baden told CBS there were multiple fractures in the Adam's apple and thyroid, and the hyoid bone that are more indicative of homicidal strangulation. With hanging self, 90% of the time there are no fractures, maybe 10% or 15% they have hyoid or thyroid fracture. You don't have free fractures with the weight of the body in the ligature. You have to have a lot more pressure by ligature or by your hands to get those fractures. And, you know, and now we're being told today, if you've just tuned in, that this is all nonsense now. The present administration, the FBI, DOJ, all the three-letter agencies are now claiming today that they've all looked at it, and they're all now saying the complete opposite of what they were saying last year, that there was a conspiracy and it was so obvious and people are going to be held to account. And I've got my friend Liam on the screen just to get a person's viewpoint, a normal citizen's viewpoint. And having read all that, Liam, what are your thoughts?
I mean, he definitely didn't kill himself. Like, I'm 100% sure. Like, the marks on the neck, he only could have strangled himself if he intentionally kept his feet off the floor. Like he did, and no, so there's no way he did that himself. The question is who did it. I mean, we don't really know, but he was definitely a liability at this stage. So the people he worked for, and then you've got the Clinton angle. Obviously, Bill was really close to him, as well as Gates and other people, but Gates is just a shady businessman. If you know about the Clintons, you know about the deaths, you know about the coroners they use, are coinciding people. Like, so it's interesting, but sometimes it's not person A or person B. When there's a mutual interest, sometimes people come together. But we'll never know exactly who did it.
Yeah, there's always anomalies with these autopsies. It was the request of Epstein's attorney that the autopsy was observed by Baden. And that was the controversial pathologist who had been an expert witness in the O.J. Simpson trial and the head of the pathology panel on the investigation into the JFK assassination. Why did he need to be involved in the study of Epstein's body? Why was the evidence of several broken bones, including the hyoid, discounted in ascribing the death as self-unalivement? And why did the medical examiner's office stall on releasing the autopsy report, which should by law have been sent to Jeffrey's family as soon as the death certificate was released, but which was actually delayed for 2 weeks after the cause of the death was first announced? And in my book, I posit that these questions point to some kind of tampering with the corpse or even the use of a body double. I know that sounds like the stuff of Hollywood movies, but it's not as far-fetched when you've got these intelligence agencies involved. You know, prominent politicians, high-profile figures around the world are using body doubles for centuries. And the CIA has a long history of utilizing body doubles in its espionage work. There is a credible theory that the CIA switched a body double for JFK's corpse after the assassination to make the wounds fit more accurately with the official narrative. So is it coincidence that the head of the investigation into JFK's murder was also present at Epstein's autopsy? Also, why did the guards remove the corpse from the cell, thus violating the Bureau of Prisons protocols, which state that self-unalivement scenes should be treated with the same level of protection as any crime scene in which a death has occurred? Why did the guards not take any photos of Jeffrey's body as it was found? And why did they put out an emergency call for Jeffrey to be taken to hospital rather than a death report, thus ensuring that few or no press will be waiting outside to photograph the corpse. So the theory that Jeffrey didn't die, have you heard about any of those theories, Liam?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've seen people say they thought the picture didn't look like him, which is interesting. I don't personally think they did a dead man switch, because why would they need him alive for anything? He's a liability. He's got to go, if anything. But it is interesting to me why it was staged as a suicide and not just a prison murder. Maybe just because if it was a murder, they'd have to sort of look like they're investigating who did it and why, maybe. So they went with the suicide option, but then that led them to people questioning the body and saying, well, this clearly wasn't a suicide. So however they tried this, it wasn't going to satisfy everybody, was it?
No. And I think it was Lynn Wood. I don't know if any of the viewers remember, we did a series of videos on what Lynn Wood said. They were some of the most viral videos we ever did. It was towards the end of our Epstein coverage before it all got nuked. And it was, I think it was 2021. He was a pro-Trump attorney, claimed he knew of 3 high-level credible sources who had all told him Jeffrey was alive and well. Although he wouldn't name his sources or give any evidence for the claim, Wood did make a very sound argument for the case that Jeffrey was still alive. He said that someone like Jeffrey, who was up to his neck in espionage and organized crime and blackmail operations, would have been acutely aware of the possibility of being self-unalived. Bearing this in mind, it is almost certain that he would have set up a so-called dead man's switch, which would effectively make public all the dirt he had on everyone or selected targets in the event of his death. And as we saw with our coverage with Frederic Ponton out of France, who was following Jean-Luc Brunel, he was mapping his movements. Fred's great. I've reached out, tried to get him back on, but we haven't had any responses. Fred, if you're watching this, please get in touch. Jeffrey was going increasingly worried about being unalived by outsiders in the last year of his life and was making plans to extricate himself from the web he had built. It hardly seems plausible, given this paranoia and planning, that Jeffrey wouldn't have set up a dead man switch to mitigate the possibility of being taken out. It's also implausible that given Jeffrey's blackmail operations, organizations like the CIA, the Mossad, wouldn't have expected Jeffrey to have such an insurance policy. The risk to either agency's reputation of this switch being activated would have been too great. Far safer to arrange a fake death and let Jeffrey live out the rest of his life in secrecy and peace. I'd often joke because I don't know if you're familiar with the Enron case, Liam, but Enron were the Bush crime family's biggest political contributors at one point in time. And Enron was an energy company that single-handedly wrote the energy policy for the United States government. And they made billions, but the whole thing was a scam. The Bushes were flying around America in Kenneth Lay's jets. He was like the head man of Enron. And I was incarcerated, actually, when Kenneth Lay got arrested. And I said, he's never going to see the light of day in court. Something's going to happen. And I can't remember what it was, whether he had a heart attack or a stroke or something, but he was disappeared. And I often joke that Jeffrey's on some island wherever these people go with their reconstructive surgery, and he's on the beach sipping a margarita next to Kenneth Lay. These people who've the deep state has benefited so much from and know so much about them, and perhaps do have these kill switches and this information hidden away, and it's safer for them to arrange these fake deaths and let them live out their lives in secrecy and peace. And I think a lot of people find that the idea that Epstein might still be alive intriguing and unsettling. Where is he living? What is he doing? Is his perversions still in play? Is he still, doing these things? Thank you, Paula M, for the super chat. Much appreciated. Which of Jeffrey's close associates would know the answers to all these questions? And now, with this news today, folks, the deep state is just like flipping the bird to us, saying You guys are never, ever going to know whether he died, how he died, why he died or did not die, who his client list was. Even though we suspect a lot of them from Gates to Clinton, you're never going to get any of that confirmed, folks. We're just going to rub it in your face and live happily ever after. But one thing is certain, the secrets, things just keep leaking out. And it's like the assassination of JFK, because it was all covered up, because we don't know what actually happened. The interest in it never ends. The research in it never ends. And the story is just kept alive ad infinitum. So that's what they've done by covering all this stuff up and confirming it today. All they're doing is bringing it all back to the forefront of the media again. There's a whole new generation of young people now garnered interest in this stuff, doing more research. And this is never going to go out of the public eye now. I mean, how long ago was the Kennedy assassinations? In the 60s. What's that, 40, 50, 60 years ago? Imagine 50 years from now, they are still talking about the mysterious unalivement of Jeffrey Epstein. So I'm going to scroll through the chat then, because I've not been paying much attention to it. Viewers, if you put any questions in the chat, now is the time to please repost your questions. I am looking at the chat. If you've got any questions for Liam as well, if you're not familiar with Liam's history, he's been following Ryan Dawson for many years, and he does watch a lot of conspiracy stuff, and he's read a fair few books, including a few of mine, haven't you, Liam? Which ones of mine have you read?
Yeah, so I'm on hard time at the moment. I've gone through all the Epstein, the Bush, the Clinton ones, CIA. Yeah. Don't you think Epstein wasn't powerful enough to get himself out of prison? Because his money wasn't even his money, was it? It was given to him by a certain person.
Yep, Black and Wexner were two of his people who transferred a hell of a lot of wealth to him. So Method wants to know, is this cover-up related to Musk saying Trump was in the files? So Method, I think what Musk is pointing out is that these politicians come into power claiming they're going to expose all this stuff, but once they get the reins of power, they just play along with the deep state and cover it up like the rest of them. And I think that Musk's father told, was it George Galloway, when they went to Russia recently, that Musk's problem is that he's too honest, and he likes honesty and transparency, and that's why Musk is disheartened by just seeing all the usual political cover-up and media manipulation that we're seeing now. So yes, Method, it was Musk who got the ball rolling on this in recent weeks, and it's all flared up because Musk's now forming or floating the idea of forming his own political party to take control of the swing states. And Trump and Bannon responded today saying that they're going to look into Musk's visa application, and if he's told any lies, they're going to pull it and they're going to deport him back to South Africa. And that, I mean, last time I looked at the Tesla stock market price, let's have a quick look. So Tesla was down almost 7% today, down $21.41 to 293. Got as low as 288 at one point. So that's multi-billions. Every time Musk does something like this, calls these people out, billions of dollars get wiped off the value of his Tesla shareholding. So it's not like he's doing this to increase his wealth. He's doing it because he's just disgusted by all these cover-up politicians trying to manipulate the public. What are your thoughts on Elon Musk, Liam?
Yeah, I think he seems, well, there's the angle of his mother and the Satanist angle and the transhumanism, which is a bit worrying because obviously with Neuralink, he's very heavily into that. So There's some parts about him that I can't really trust, but politically he seems good. I mean, he seems better than obviously anybody in the current administration, which might be why he's been kicked out, to be fair.
Exactly. There's no pure saintly figure in existence in the world. There's good and bad in everybody. And I think Elon has done huge things in terms of freedom of speech and taking over X. And that's kind of influenced the other platforms to raise the bar on freedom of speech and reduce censorship, all that ridiculous woke censorship. Oh, looks like Professor Hamamoto is in the chat. Shout out to the professor. We had an absolute blast the other day. So Ian is wondering if Liam would give us his opinions on anything else. What other conspiracies have you been following, Liam?
I mean, so quite a few of them, they all sort of lead back to a sort of global cabal, don't they?
Yeah.
So they kind of do lead back to the same people, aside from completely ridiculous conspiracies, which are just funny, like flat Earth.
I think the ridiculous conspiracy theories are designed to discredit the whole conspiracy community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see what Florida Girl says. Why would they have been carting around Jeffrey's corpse without a covering so the paparazzi could get a photo? I say fake death. Good point, Florida Girl.
But they would have been anticipating needing proof for the media, I guess.
Abundantly empowered. It's the pitiful last resort of the dark cabal. So sad. They know they're going down. But do they? They've almost got the war with Iran, war number 7. They've obviously seized control of FBI, DOJ, all the 3-letter agencies for them to come out and announce this garbage today, which covers up the arses of many of the power players involved with the deep state. Paul M, yeah, thanks for the super chat. How disappointing all this Jeffrey business indeed. Sammy, what do they need all this? Sammy, it's never ending, isn't it? It's like, how much money do they need? Look at how much money power. I think the more money they think they've got, the more power they think they've got. And then you get to this hierarchy of titles, which is the royal family. So it's how big is your title? It goes beyond money and power. So there's hierarchies within hierarchies for these globalists and New World Order freaks. BNGRZ99. Remember the dark forces in control before Trump was in charge, deeply ingrained from agencies to government and powerful families. They did not want him winning as he would expose them. Well, he's got the opportunity to expose them, and my hopes were raised that he would expose them. And I love it that he's speaking to Putin, and I love it that he's made great strides in freedom of speech. But I am deeply saddened by this news from the 3-letter agencies about Epstein today. So it's a real shame that they're all circling the wagons on this particular thing.
But Shaun, I would disagree with your point there with Trump and free speech. So recently there's been a lot of deporting students that are critical of a certain foreign nation. So you could argue in free speech they've taken a step back under Trump.
So I see what you're saying. It's gone from censoring a certain type of free speech to censoring a completely different type of free speech. Well, I am breathing easier, Liam, because we were just walking on a minefield on YouTube, and I'm able to say more now, definitely able to say more, and have some of the guests back that were completely banned from me getting on here years ago.
Yeah.
And so far we've been navigating that, and we still weigh our words, but it does seem that even YouTube is allowing us to say more. So Lisa, do we truly know if Maxwell is in Club Fed in Tallahassee too? Playing, doing yoga and kicking back with her ramen noodle soups. We don't know anything, do we? Have I seen the movie Wag the Dog? I have not seen the movie Wag the Dog. Have you seen it, Liam?
No.
So, new columnist, we did have Ryan Dawson on until he went blind. And since he went blind, he has stopped doing interviews. I think some of his last interviews were on this channel if you go back over the playlist. GD, if the case was so sensitive for the deep state, why was he arrested in the first case and second case? Well, if you look at the first case, GD, they came in and said he worked for intelligence. It's above my pay grade. Give him a pass. And Jeffrey gave the sheriff of Florida over 100,000 political contribution. And the deputies were just bodyguarding him, vetting his visitors, and it was business as usual. So his first incarceration was a complete and utter charade. Second time around, you know, with all the public pressure, God bless Virginia, the lawsuits with Maxwell that revealed so much. It just became at that point, you know, Julie Brown, the Florida, the newspaper people. There was too much exposure then for it to be covered up. So what I have learned from David Icke said in the beginning, if these rings can protect a ring participant, they will protect the ring participant and ensure the cover-up. But if they are no longer able to protect the ring participant will be unalived and sacrificed so that they can't snitch anyone out or reveal any sensitive information. So I think that's what's happened there. What happened to his co-accused? Her name is Maxwell. So basically, Maxwell is still alive, incarcerated. She got a hefty sentence. Jean-Luc Brunel ended up unalived like Jeffrey. He was the other procurer. I think Maxwell got a pass because of her association with the Clinton crime family, and that some backsheesh will be handed down to a high court's appeal judge, and she'll get Bill Cosby'd out when the media interest in the case is no longer as high as it is now.
She used to talk to the UN, didn't she?
Yeah, and she was doing TED Talks and trying to sell virtual ocean real estate and pretending to work for be a charitable person. Did Trump release anything valuable? No, that's what Karina has said. I know it's, you know, it's okay to be frustrated at this administration. Just because you support a certain administration doesn't mean you have to sign up for everything they stand for or do. You know, there's good and bad in every administration. Like I said, I support what Trump's done with freedom of speech, but I hate what the administration is doing with Epstein. All right, let's see what else we got. Trump's no angel. Have you heard of any Danes visiting the island? Good grief. You know, when we got the list in the beginning, the Epstein list, we were calling people up. The phone numbers out of it, people like Mick Jagger. There was a lot of foreign sounding European names, maybe some Danes, and European royal family members as well on the list. It's been a while since I looked at that list, though.
But the list wasn't necessarily that they did anything. It's just they were invited under, you know, guise of a party or something.
Absolutely. Not everybody on that list is implicated in Jeffrey's crimes. Scott, is Musk a hero this week? Tell us, oh wise ones. Protest. Let me get that off the screen. Let's see. Do you think this is a media distraction, as timing is spot on with a certain country attacking Yemen? Oh my goodness. Everything is a media distraction, Helena. If you're watching the BBC, like when I go to my parents' house and watch the BBC, the whole thing is just constant manipulation by these stuffed corpse AI looking people with weird orange makeup on their faces, moving around, like their jaws moving like mannequins, just repeating things like parrots from auto cues. So just, you know, my advice is to try and stay away from those outlets, the same outlets that told us Saddam Hussein as weapons of mass destruction. Why do people keep going back to those same outlets? and letting them shove these lies down our throats. What outlets do you go to, Liam, for your news?
So politically, I think Ryan Dawson's great. Just go on YouTube, watch Judge Napolitano. He'll get on Scott Ritter, Colonel Douglas McGregor. Just nothing mainstream. It's just, yeah, there's nothing there anymore.
Yeah, I'm addicted to Scott Ritter, Douglas McGregor, Danny Haipong, all these guys. It's all this, yeah, all this stuff that's going on around the world with Ukraine.
Candace,
and
Ian Carroll, Tucker. There's some good Americans. Even on the American right, there's some good people. Just stay away from like Charlie Kirk and all the patriot Americans who are just pro you know who.
So the guy asking about Switzerland and the Vatican, let's put that to Kenneth Annett when he's back on in about 2 weeks. At the weekend, if you missed it, folks, we had Kathy O'Brien on, the original MK Ultra survivor, and it was a phenomenal interview. So I commend you, Shaun, for trying to share the truth. Been following you since before they made you take your videos down. Oh, thank you. In light. And let's pray that these ones stay up. There's no dark storm clouds gathering on the horizon. I know, Alison, they're trying to tell us today Maxwell is in jail for the transportation of these kids. But there's no clients. There's no clients. They were transported to the Tooth Fairy, folks. They were transported to Father Christmas and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. This is how dumb they think we are. So,
well, Shaun, can I run a conspiracy by you?
Yes, please.
So I saw today somebody said, you know, there's a lot of big things in America, like, you know, floods and earthquakes and these things. People think these things are weaponized. And some people think these things might be weaponized at certain times to distract from stories dropping at certain times or when bills are passed, etc. So something else to think about.
What about when AI can just replicate the news and make up its own fake news and just take over all of the news channels and just tell people what the hell it wants them to believe? This is where we're heading.
Well, the news is kind of fake anyway, to be fair.
How much more fake can it get? Let's see. So it ain't me. Do you think the rest of the world will be sitting back rubbing their hands at Trump and Elon at each other's throats? People love conflict, folks. Look at all the beefs on YouTube, how many views they get. People love conflict. One guy swings at another. How's Elon going to react to Trump? It's one of the biggest news stories in the world today. The only people who aren't enjoying it are Elon shareholders who keep watching his stock go down every time he attacks Trump with one of these tweets.
Do you remember when he first bought X, he was talking about with the ADL and advertisers and like censorship, and then he got made to fly out to kiss the wall, and then since he came back he's been a bit more pro those people. So he's been good, but he's not been perfect for like free speech with X, and even he has to follow some rules, I think.
So Latse is bringing up DARPA weather modification. Here in the UK now, they've just straight come out with it. They're spending millions, and the guys who are running this program are putting millions in their own pockets to block out the sun on hot days, so we don't get any vitamins from the sun anymore, and the weather is modified, and God knows what may happen through the butterfly effect by doing so. What did you see that news story, Liam?
Yeah, I feel like they just want to put us in like 15-minute cities, give us curfews, and make us not want to leave our homes.
What do you know about the 15-minute cities?
Well, I know there's a lot of opposition to them. Because I've seen plans of areas where, like, at certain times, these bollards will just come out the ground, and then with electric cars, you just won't be able to drive anywhere. And that's why they want, you know, so you've got your little zone, you've got your little shop, and you can't leave. It seems quite militarized, doesn't it? Almost like during COVID with the lockdowns. Seems very.
Well, even Klaus Schwab, who was behind all this, he ended up getting in trouble at the WEF, didn't he? Now there's like some shenanigans going on with him. So, Sammy, how can Maxwell be in jail for supplying girls with nobody held accountable for SAing them? Sammy, we're not allowed to ask that. What is obvious to rational people, we are not allowed to have these thoughts anymore. We're supposed to just believe the BBC and Piers Morgan telling us that this is all a cockamamie conspiracy theory. We're whack jobs. How on earth can Maxwell be in jail for supplying girls to nobody? It's crazy town. Klaus Schwab used funds inappropriately. I bet he did.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive. They've not unalived him yet. Seems very, very Hunger Gamesy. So, Annie, the news coming out today may be a coincidence of Satan Yahoo visiting the US today too, you think? By the way, shout out to the mods in the chat. Of course, always shout out to the mods in the chat. I think the Mod of the Month award is coming up. I'll have to speak to Ron about that tomorrow. Free speech. 15-minute city, just keep you in like a 10-kilometer distance. Only reason to go out is visit friends, and that you can't afford anyway. That's going to be 70 kilometers on the bike. Yeah, just like all those restrictions they gave us under COVID. We are being ruled by those whom you can't criticize. That's for sure. We only got the goods on Bill Gates because his wife came out with it, remember? Put a bit of pressure on him when he was playing away from home, getting those divorce negotiation settlements, firing a shot across the bow. Mrs. Gates, well done. Imagine how much we don't know. We just get to look every now and again for a little crack into the deep state activity. Right, we're almost at midnight, viewers and Liam. Do you have anything in conclusion? It looks like Jen has put your Instagram. Where's Jen put your Instagram? Oh, she put your Instagram in the live chat earlier, I think. Did you want people contacting you, Liam, on your Instagram?
Yeah, they can go through there.
I'll put it in the live chat right now then. And what's your Instagram handle?
It is Liam_James.
Liam _ James, got you?
And then 301092.
Right. All right. So I've also got the links for my book, Who Killed Epstein, in the description box. I've written 18 books. It's 17. I've lost count. Including Clinton, Bush, and CIA conspiracies. Are you reading that one now, Liam?
No, I finished that one.
What do you think of it?
Well, it's like, what's going on now? Just don't be surprised when they lie, when they cover it up. Don't be surprised when people die.
What did you think about the Bush and Clinton crime families?
Yeah, it's interesting. known how it just came from their connections, their drug habits. There's a lot of, yeah, a lot of shadiness.
Put a one in the chat. I've just put Liam's Instagram in the live chat. Put a one in the live chat, folks. If you would like Liam to come back as a rational citizen to get his viewpoint, as opposed to all of us conspiracy whack jobs whose minds are just transfixed on deep dives down rabbit holes that go against the New World Order's mainstream media narratives. Put a 2 in the chat if you'd rather not see Liam come back and give his rational man on the street viewpoint. And if you've got any further questions for Liam, please send them to his Instagram. And if you want to join us for martial arts or get a PT session off Liam, reach out to him on Instagram, and we're sure if you're in this area of the country, we can arrange that for you too. So, oh, thanks, Jen. So let's see how things develop tomorrow, folks. I'll have a quick look. When this video ends, it's going to take you to a trailer from a studio podcast I've done with an ex-UK cop. Her name's Haley, and it's some of the most horrific ex-cop stories I've ever heard in my life. And then we had a 7/7 survivor on earlier today, Beverly Rhodes. It's already been shadow banned by YouTube and demonetized, so you've probably not been notified about it. Ron is back tomorrow with Epstein client list never existed. And then, good job, Ron. Satanic Illuminati monster bloodlines. Oh no, that's me. That's me. Oh, actually, I think Nathan Reynolds has postponed that. Shane's just messaged me. So we might have to move that one out. But I love that title, Satanic Illuminati monster bloodlines. So John Wedger on July the 9th. Ex-London cop with his crime theory. And that is the coming lineup for the week. So thank you for tuning in. Thanks for your questions. Hope to see